Okay. Honorable members, our team, support team from Parliament, members of the public that are watching our portfolio committee this morning, good morning to you all. Today we are having a meeting that will look at the report of the recent oversight visit that we did in Telkom Towers in Pretoria. That visit that we did was a follow-up on reports and the first oversight visit that we did as this portfolio committee in 2019 in August, visiting the Telkom Towers. And the report that we had requested several times to check what is happening there. A project that started almost 8 years ago or 10 years or so, in which only one tower we have been reported to that is functional. Telkom Towers is supposed to be the headquarters of SAPS, and we felt that SAPS needs to occupy the building that was bought for it and the building that is being renovated for them, so that they stop renting out. And the report that we got and that made us visit that is to see the amount of rentals that are being done to house the headquarters of SAPS. We visited
Recording
SAPS.
in progress.
We visited the Telkom Towers because of that. It's not a new thing. It's a follow-up on the work that we are doing to ensure that as the people that are elected to represent South Africans in the parliament, we have to ensure that what is done by the Treasury, in fact, the taxes, what are they paying for? It's what they are getting. And also, we are very concerned about the facilities management branch of our entity, which is PMTE, on the way it is doing its work. So we had to attend to this. That is the report that we are going to get today. We also have seen on the news yesterday that President addressed thousands and thousands of women NGOs on the summit on gender-based violence and femicide. A thorn in every woman in South Africa, a real challenge or pandemic in South Africa, in which we know that every 3 minutes a woman is raped in South Africa. It's very scary. And as a woman, we are afraid. We are really, really afraid, because we feel that we are not safe in our own country, in our own homes. You can't walk as a woman in South Africa on the street and feel that you are safe. We have to live behind closed doors, behind high fences, because we are afraid. We hope that that summit will come up with resolutions that will make life easier and safe for women who are living, women and children who are living in South Africa. We really appreciate that summit, but we hope that it will come up with resolutions that will make us feel safe in our own country, our own backyards. With those few words, honorable members, you are all welcome in this meeting. As we all know, that Ms. Martinez is writing her exams, so she is not part of our meeting, but the committee session has sent us someone to be our secretary today. Can we then get any, do we have any apologies?
No, Chairperson, no apologies.
Okay, thank you. Then can we then hand over to Shuaib to present the report? After the report, we'll deal with the minutes of our previous meetings. Then Shuaib, can you deal with the report, present the report?
Thank you, Chairperson. Good morning, members and colleagues. Mahdia, could I have screen sharing facility, please?
Yes, I just gave it to you now, Shuaib.
Thank you. Where is this report? There it is. All right, can I just get confirmation that the report is visible?
Yes, it is.
Thank you. Chairperson, there are a few errors in the report that I picked up, and members will see because I left the track change on so that members can be assured that that is going to be fixed, and that we don't have to spend too much time on that. Just to say that this was an oversight visit where the committee followed up, as the chairperson indicated, on accommodation to the South African Police Service in the Telkom Towers building. I think members know quite a bit about Telkom Towers, that it houses or accommodates a number of other departments as well. So it's actually a precinct, if you think of it. The huge cost involved in this project, not only with regard to refurbishing, but also with regard to security, as well as other costs in terms of rates and services to the municipality. And so there is actually quite a lot of loss going on here, although I must say I noticed that that was not fully laid out to the committee. Chair, I just want to also say that what you mentioned about facilities management, construction project management, these are branches of the PMTE that should give effect to accommodation and to maintenance of all our buildings. And in this oversight visit, you looked at one case, which is the Telkom Towers, and only a few floors that was supposed to have been completed, I think in 2019 already. I remember when we visited, we were told that 2019 we visited, we were told that in April 2020, the police would be inside and would be accommodated. We are in 2022, and that is still not the case. So we indicate just to go straight to the report, we indicate the date of the oversight visit to Gauteng Telkom Towers, and the attendance. If there are any errors, members may please indicate. This is the introduction, and those red lines you see there are some of the gap errors that I noticed, and that I just fixed. And there were a few tense errors that I also noticed further later on. Members will notice. The mandate of the department and the relationship with the PMTE is indicated, where what we say here is basically that part of a turnaround strategy started in 2011-12. The department operationalized the PMTE in the 14-15 financial year as an internal component within the department. Now, this is the same way in which Infrastructure South Africa is housed within the new Infrastructure South Africa is housed within the department. So when this was established, immovable asset register, construction project management, facilities management, those moved from the department to the PMTE. Others as well, but I'm just mentioning those. And so a lot of the problems that DPW as a department had, DPWI as a department had, was then shifted to PMTE, which is why you will notice over the last few years, whenever there's auditing issues, it will be in the PMTE and not in the department's main vote. We Just to also mention to members that you would recall that in the BRRR this year, we mentioned that the PMTE is not fully functional, and that some of the problems you picked up in this on this oversight visit has obviously got to do with that. As mentioned here of the government immovable asset register, that's also housed within this department. We are well aware of the problems around that. The mandate of our committee is stated here. And then fourthly, the fourth section, we state the purpose of the visit. And the purpose being on the refurbishing work at the Telkom Towers. And the committee wanted to establish what the reasons were for the delay in completing and handing over the building to the SAPs. Now, while I was not present, I was present virtually in that I get video clips and photos as the visit takes place. And quite a lot of what is in the report comes from colleagues who were present, but also from what I noticed on video clips and photos. And so the method that we followed was that on the first day, we received briefings from both the department and SAPs on the project. And on the second day, the actual floors where they were supposed to be accommodated was visited. And there's a huge discrepancy between what was said in that first meeting and what members found in the second. And members know the details of what happened on that second day. But here we state the intention and not what actually happened in that number 4. We engaged with the acting DG, with the National Police Commissioner, and with senior management. If there are any errors in terms of that, members can alert me and I will change that. And the deliberations focused on key matters such as challenges emerging from the actual project. Now, so day one's visit, 5 then sets out what happened, the apologies of the minister and the Minister of SAPS. And here's one of those issues that I referred to that keep coming up. And then a presentation was done by the Police Commissioner, National Police Commissioner, Lieutenant General Masamola, assisted by senior SAPS officials, where they laid out what the original feasibility analysis was about, when it was conducted in 2015, and you would also notice, Chairperson and members, that our client departments also have equivalent facilities management and construction management, increasingly units in their department. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that, because according to the Government Immovable Asset Management Act, what needs to happen is that for every building where a client department is housed, DPWI as custodian must have a custodian immovable asset management plan. And the client will have a client asset management plan, immovable asset management plan. And those will state what is the amount is 100,000 per incident, that they then can use to also fix things. So they should actually have a facilities management branch or unit as well. The challenge is that if we as a PMTE, if the department and PMTE does not do its work well enough, what happens is this trust that's developed inside the client department, they then start taking over this mandate that we referred to in 4 of this report. And so here we see Lieutenant General Mkhwanazi, who is the Facilities Management Divisional Commissioner, that was involved in this project in 2015, and the procurement was then confirmed and took place on 30 October 2015. So once it's procured and it's used assigned as used for the South African Police Service, which has intelligence information and other sensitive information, such buildings become national key points. And so you noticed it was one of 10 buildings that was procured by the Telkom, from Telkom Trust, and the amount is 41 million. The purchase was handled by DPWI and Treasury, because the building is currently used as an NKP for Telkom Trust. Towers is also an ITC building, and it's being leased to Telkom for that purpose. This expired 31 August 2017. This is all information that was given to the committee on the Friday. Another space that I just want to insert here. Currently, the building is on a month-to-month lease, and members know the issue around month-to-month leases. That should have been stopped. The lease agreement is that the building is used as an ITC hub, as we mentioned. The PR building, this is also part of it. Building is being leased to Telkom Trust by DPWI for a period of 3 years. Now, you saw earlier on that ITC one is 1 month to month. This one is 3 years. So in one piece, you see different types of leases that are being agreed to. Some you can see has expired already. No feedback given with regard to the status of the lease from 2018 up to now. So we do not know how much money should have come in, how much money did come in from 2018 to now, after the expiry of the contract. And when I see something like this, it's evidence to me of leases not being management in this case, and certainly not being properly managed, or being managed uniformly, as Giama says it should be done. Here's the status of the South Tower. According to the report, it was ready for occupation, but could not be occupied pending approval of the migration plan that will permit the activation of space planning by DPWI. This is something that's managed by facilities management, but it's a handover from construction project management that looks after the office refurbishment. And once it's completed, there's a whole check that needs to be taken place. As I explained to members recently on FIBDM, this is one of those last gates through which you go, and it gets signed off in that way. So it's actually a permit. It's actually just permit the activation, but it's a permit of safety, so that Occupational Health and Safety Act is also adhered to. So that South Tower is something that should be accommodated, but well, according to them, it should be accommodated in the Friday report. The pending approval means something is not completed, and the migration plan is therefore not signed off. North Tower and Annex building, ready for occupation according to the report. And again, migration plan not signed off. Eastern and Western Tower, this is part of, they say it's ready for occupation as phase 2 proposal, awaiting activation of space planning, again, the migration plan. Somerset House, part of heritage protected building, and it is supposed to still be repaired and upgraded. So Somerset House is not occupied and occupiable. The central building was condemned due to contamination of water supply and reticulation in the building. So that one. So what we can then see is some is completed, some of the parts are completed. Central is not, and Somerset House is not, according to the report on the Friday. The financial expenditure breakdown is here. I'm not going to go through all of that. It's huge cost. DPW also speaks of money that's available for the PMTE budget for the 2015-16 financial year that was then combined to another amount. And I can say to members, the reason why I'm going past this is there's a whole bid adjudication committee issue with contractors where things did not go properly, as far as I'm concerned. Because I think more things will have to come out here. Members can recall that we mentioned with the Auditor General recently the need for evidence to be put in an initial report so that a proclamation can be signed by the President to investigate lease management. Chair, the migration challenges is what was alluded to earlier on. This is about occupation and compliance certification. And already in 2018, a presentation made to the Commissioner reflected that the North Tower would be ready, and this is the same type of promise that we were made to when we visited in 2019, the first time around. Now, they speak of continuous challenges experienced by the Office of the National Commissioner with regard to the building and non-compliance to the Occupation, Health and Safety Act. And the Commissioner then had to vacate the building and had to be taken to Maupanaga. So, several engagement with DPWI on the second project execution plan was presented in July 2018 for North Tower and Annex Phase 1, which indicated that the two buildings would only be ready 9 months after handing over the site. Was expected to be 26 November 2018, and the practical completion date was then estimated to be 2019. This lists all the issues around occupation, health and safety and the migration challenges. The certificate of occupation and compliance, the electrical one for the North Tower and Annex building were outstanding, and there were issues with the lifts, the 6 high-rise lifts and the 6 low-rise lifts. 3 high-rise lifts were functional while only 1 low-rise lift was functional, and it created challenges for members, and that would not have worked when it comes to occupation. Occupation and compliance certificates for other buildings were never issued, as the project execution plans only covered North and the Annex, North Tower and Annex. So the status of SAP's leased facilities are listed here. The expenditure of 31 million per month on leases due, and that's really the amount, 31 million. It's astounding that money is wasted like this due to the delayed implementation of the migration plan to Telkom Towers. That's a lot of money that should not be wasted like that. Challenges that contributed are listed as reported to members. And we now in 2020, and this is part of also what members were promised in that first visit. And we noticed that even though it was shifted to 31 March 2021 after that, it also did not materialize. DBSA is here as a project management team. This is interesting that, and it's, I'm highlighting this because of this aspect, that a feature that we find in all reports, especially around project management, but increasingly also about infrastructure project management, is this matter of high-level information and high-level reasons for shifting deadlines get provided. And these are vague. They do not give us material evidence that should be part of the project management process. We do not see signing off on phases by registered project managers and built environment professionals, such as architects, quantity surveyors, structural and electrical engineers, internal designers. These contravenes construction industry and built environment professional standards and frameworks. Now, when I say it contravenes it, unfortunately, we do not have a Public Works Act that, and the amendment to the CIDB and the CBE Acts that gives us consequence management for not complying to these standards and frameworks. DBSA and Public Works team reported the reasons for the delay included that the project was marred by community unrest, which led to site closure. The reality is that this did take place, but we do not get an idea of from what date to what date and when the unrest was, when it calmed down. We also do not get an idea of the community liaison officers and the project managers from their side in terms of detail of how they managed it, because that would be interesting to see. Because it's the community liaisons officers' duty to ensure that such incidences are foreseen and timeously resolved. Delayed completion resulted in an open-ended occupation of leased facilities that were earmarked for termination and subsequent migration to the towers. The project only addressed 2 of 10 buildings, and it prolonged the migration and subsequent cancellation of leased buildings in the Greater Pretoria Central Business District. Scope of work addressed critical compliance issues and excluded aesthetic issues or aspects such as painting and replacement of floor tiles and ceiling tiles. These are very, it sounds small things, but they are very important things for occupational health and safety, as that will not be signed off unless those things are done properly. It's not just aesthetics, it's therefore also OHS. And that's part of the reason why the National Commissioner, as reported earlier on, had to be temporarily accommodated at Malpanaga. After the Police Portfolio Committee visited Veritas in May 2021, a directive was given by the National Commissioner, the then National Commissioner, that the Central Firearms Register be migrated urgently to Telkom Towers, as the department confirmed that the ITC building at Telkom Towers would be ready in October 2021 when the lease expired. The challenge is that September 2021, DPWI officially notified the National Commissioner that Telkom Towers North and Annex were ready, but unfortunately the ITC was not ready. So here we can see, and it will be very interesting for the chairperson, who is also aware of the other projects by other entities of government institutions supporting democracy, such as the Public Service Commission, that's interested in how the accommodation function and mandate of public works as a department hampers service delivery by departments such as police. If this Central Firearms Register is not protected, it can cause huge problems. And I think it does cause huge problems already, because this is how we see illegal guns and ammunition lying around and can easily be taken. And I mean taken, because the type of theft that takes place is very often without violence, and it just disappears out of police stations across the country. This doesn't mean that it happens everywhere. Let's be clear here. It doesn't mean it happens everywhere. However, if public works does not do its side, then it's more difficult for control to be exercised by the client department, SAPs, over such important things. I mean, a promise in 1 year that a particular building is ready for the firearms register to move there, and then suddenly it's not ready anymore, that's just not how it should be done. The process of migrating the register commenced, but was stopped as the building was found to be uninhabitable, not inhabitable. It should be uninhabitable, despite the compliance certificates issued by the Department of Labor and Tshwane municipality. So the client went in and then said, this space is not proper for us. National Department of Public Works and Infrastructure, these challenges were brought to their attention by SAPs: lifts malfunctioning, visible leaks in the basement, and water ingress on the ground floor coming from the side of the goods lifts, mounted filing cabinets malfunctioning and needing repairs, carpets worn out and old, fire extinguishers missing, DB boxes, that's electrical distribution boxes, stripped of cables, biometric system was not in a working condition, damaged drywall in the basement storage, holes in walls that required repairs, kitchen on the same floor required, on several floors, my apologies, required refurbishments, and door locks and safes needed to be fitted with new locks. Bathrooms were not working, some without toilet paper holders. If it was toilet paper, then it would have been the client department's issue and not public works issue. But this is certainly a public works issue, and air conditioning system was not working. So the HVAC, heating, ventilation, and air conditioning was not working on the ground floor. It was taken up with the department, but no formal response was received. SAPS recommended that the department provides it with a credible plan, clear timelines, etc. SAPS threatened, but it's basically a threat to the custodian to urgently, if they don't urgently attend to the matter, it would mean that an alternative project management method was required so that Telkom Towers project could be completed. Now, this is the type of example that we do not want, that client departments feel done in by the Department of Public Works as custodian. That means that the GIAMA is not properly implemented, and that's serious. This must seriously be addressed with much more urgency. The acting DG made a presentation. I think I'm just going to make a note that we need to fix this. The acting DG made a presentation assisted by senior management team, responded to the migration challenge issues, referred to savings on certain projects. Project percentage reported as 100%. 6 lease buildings due to delay in migration, 4 were terminated in July 2022, remaining 2 on a month-to-month basis. Vague detail, there's definite detail here, but is it relevant to what the client department asked? And I must say, the acting DG and senior management responded properly here to the annex building. You can see the detail being provided. But what bothers a bit is that we only see were noted instead of the urgency that would be required for these to be sorted out. You know, when we note something, we just note it. It doesn't mean action is taken. Although, in spite of the fact that no action is referred to, there's reference to handover date 5 December this year. That's for that particular building. The other part of the building, the IT one to which the firearms register was supposed to have gone, this detail is provided here. Visible policing. I don't see much that relates directly to what the client department asked. Again, this date has been passed now, and clearly there's a need to check whether this ITC building is now ready for the firearms register to move there or not, because the site handover date was scheduled for 18 October. I must say that we need to be clear about what this means and whether this includes the migration, certified migration plan, and whether that is completed, because remember that was what was the blockage this time around. The refurbishment operate and transfer project is a new one that was presented to this committee in this year, and the committee asked that IDT be included in this instead of entities like DBSA, KUGA, and others. That seems to be the preferred one. Members would recall that there has not been much movement in that regard, but my apologies. But there has been, because the committee referred to that as a preference in order to get IDT's income boosted, we hope that there would be a move towards IDT for that. But we now notice that the infrastructure South Africa starts being mentioned in this visit. And we notice that request for proposal, request for information, ISA is involved, and ISA is going to do a potential ROT program for the third quarter of this next financial year, and the fourth quarter of it. And these are leases that has to do with these particular buildings. Now, members need to perhaps make comments about how this relates to, and how strongly it relates to a solution. Because this is, remember, what the DG and the senior management team is putting forward on the first day of this oversight visit. The SAP's leasing portfolio cost per year 178 million. It's the largest single user of leased accommodation within the Department of Public Works and Infrastructure. It's stated here that majority of the leases procured for SAPs have expired. They are currently running month to month. This is just a note for myself to fix. And it weakens the position to enforce the provisions in the lease agreements because they relate to compliance with OHS. So I think there's a lot of work to be done here by the department's facilities management, the PMTE's facilities management, to sort these lease things out because there's lots of money here. And as I say, an initial investigation for proclamation might be needed for SAU investigation. Facilities management, the DPWI is responding to all maintenance issues on, at its day-to-day call center. The problem with this maintenance regime is that it leads to unscheduled maintenance rather than scheduled maintenance. For every building, those custodian immovable massive management plans and user immovable asset management plans should include a list of things per financial year that needs to be maintained. It seems as, and then a schedule of maintenance that include, so you can project ahead how many people you need, artisans per building to be maintained, and you purchase material in a controlled way. In this uncontrolled, unscheduled maintenance manner, a lot of extra money is incurred and often wastage occurs. Just add a full stop. So total facilities management is what is referred to, and total facilities management would, as far as I'm concerned, be something that is much more planned than what we see in this example of Telkom Towers and SAPs, the accommodation and leasing of SAPs. The committee raised these concerns, saying that buildings are currently leased back to Telkom after acquisition. Another matter that was raised on leasing was the red flags that were raised by the AG. Let me just do that. When reporting to the committee, this was the issue of month-to-month leases that were not properly managed and that were inaccurate and inconsistent, and as I mentioned, leads to a loss of money. Members also said in that meeting that it's unclear why health and safety certification was granted by the city of Tshwane and then reversed. And here's a reference also to what happened in Parliament's fire debacle, where the testing and the assessment you could see was done, but yet for certain fire equipment was done and not for others. There were no proper ventilation, and when that fire took place, it was difficult to control. Safety of Telkom Towers noted as a huge concern. As such, the department was encouraged to prioritize the safety of inhabitants while ensuring that the migration project is expedited. The department had to explain why the IDT was only given 10% of the work and the rest was granted to DBSA and Bucha. So on day 2, when the members visited the precinct, the Minister, Deputy Minister, National Police Commissioner, and SAPS officials, my apologies, were these people and senior people, executive authorities, and the accounting officer of SAPS and senior officials had to be accommodated. When members arrived, there was no access granted to most of the floors that was reported on in the first day. Now, it's only correct that if a committee comes for oversight and the committee raises issues on 5 out of 10 buildings of a precinct, that all 5 on the second day would be open and accessible, and the project managers would be there. The construction project managers would make certain that the service providers who's doing the refurbishments are there so that members can get answers from those particular people who are actually doing the work. When members got there, access to most floors were not available. It could be that SAPS did not want members in particular areas because it's a national key point. The problem is that that was not really the case, because the SAPS delegation, including let me start that sentence again. The SAPS delegation, General Fani and General Sitoli, led the committee through parts of the building. And the problem is that it seems as if there was a problem with the coordination within SAPS regarding the visit, and it was not timeously communicated between DPWI and SAPS. Members were allowed access to the 18th floor, where legal services of SAPS are accommodated. Few officials seems to have moved into the floor. The rest was still in rented buildings elsewhere where money is being paid. So now you pay for 2 buildings. Officials who were present during the visit indicated that the HVAC was dysfunctional, and it was evident that the floor mats had not been cleaned. This is the evidence we're talking about here, is members could see it. The DBSA official who was present indicated that the building was handed over, that when the building was handed over, August 2021, everything was in working order. As such, he insisted that those were maintenance issues that SAPS as client department was responsible for. Now, I must say to members that this is a typical manner in which things often go. We go to client departments and the client department complains about the windows that are broken and sewage pipes that are leaking, etc. What client departments have in their capital expenditure budget is 100,000 Rand per incident to maintain these things. This is incorrect, that if the carpets are dirty, it's not Public Works' issue. That it got dirty from 2021 to 2022, SAPS should. So I want us to understand the client departments also have a duty, and that all these areas are not just a Public Works issue. That clearly is not facilities management of Public Works' issue. But the fact that all the legal services officials of SAPS could not move in, the fact that HVAC is not working, those things need to be reported to Public Works Facilities Management so that they could come and fix it. That's part of a snag list. Even when we build ourselves, that is what gets done. This sentence I would want to redraft. So I'm just going to make it read for myself when I fix it for final editing after consideration. Another floor that the committee accessed on 23rd floor, which was supposed to accommodate the minister's officials. Keys were not brought through by the responsible official. The official claimed to have left them either in a vehicle or another office. Committee looked around and discovered defects and holes in the ceiling and expired fire extinguishers. These are the matters that members referred to right at the beginning also, because they learned lessons from what happened in Parliament. And now we can see our members becoming and acting like experienced facilities management inspectors. And I'm not saying you are that, but I'm saying your oversight eye is sharpened and you are able to see these are things that need to be addressed. The project manager from DBSA was present and insisted that those were maintenance issues and that the DDG construction project management from Public Works indicated that there was a plan in place to replace the fire extinguishers as it was part of another project scope. So the DBSA feels that it was maintenance issue, but you can see that Public Works construction project management, DDG, says no, it is part of a project scope of another portion of the project. There's slippage going on here between DBSA and Public Works, and that signals that there isn't regular and proper communication around projects. The committee raised its dissatisfaction with SAPS officials as it was deemed a deliberate motive to sabotage the work of the committee, hindering it from playing its oversight role over the executive. A resolution, I think I need to take this out in this case because we didn't look specifically at any executive action in this case, but more around on facilities management and accommodation. It does affect the executive, but not in this particular case. A resolution was taken to further conduct, I would prefer this to stand separate so that it stands out, was taken to further conduct spot visits to Telkom Towers so that the committee may be able to obtain all information it envisages to gain access without obstacles. Again, one of the sentences that I undertake as we speak here to edit so that it reads better. The following findings were made. Lack of communication between affected departments caused unnecessary delay, resulting in fruitless and wasteful expenditure. Minister of Police and National Commissioner have not yet moved into Telkom Towers, different from the report that was given, and these are due to delays that has to do with those migration certification. And Minister and National Police Commissioner are still working from home. The critical SAPS officials that were evicted in some of the leased buildings due to non-payment of rental by the department was one of the findings. The occupied building had a low bandwidth, IT bandwidth, due to incorrect ICT infrastructure wiring. Better to call this cabling rather than wiring, which causes connectivity issues. Firefighting equipment expired, posing fire hazard. Building was poorly maintained. Air conditioning was not working on the floors that the committee had access to, which also affects the working environment. And then the committee made recommendations as follows. My apologies. Firstly, the committee, when it makes recommendations to the executive authority to act. So the Minister of Public Works and Infrastructure should ensure that PMTE and Development Bank South Africa as project management agency responsible for Telkom Towers refurbish, my apologies, let me read it again. That the PMTE and DBSA as current project management agency responsible for Telkom Towers refurbishment project should provide a detailed report to the committee on work per phase on contractors and subcontractors and related cost paid per phase. It should include all scope of work with amendments per phase, applicable signed off completion certificates per phase, deadline deviation requests, and where applicable, permissions and relevant added cost from the commencement date of the project to the date of the oversight visit. The report should include information that enables a timeline with challenges noted, strategies to overcome them, and reasons for deviations so that the continued incomplete status of this project can be properly documented. Minister must ensure, I must take must away here and just start this one with ensure that refurbishment and construction project management projects from the PMTE refurbishment, operating and transfer program, that's the ROT program, is allocated to the Independent Development Trust so that the entity can be sustainable after its resuscitation from nearly being closed down. Now, those are two recommendations. The first one, members can see, can be split into other separate ones, but we've tried to give it a detailed sort of structure for the minister to instruct the PMT and DBSA to report to the committee on how they're going to fix this matter. Members and chairperson, I thank you. The report is to be considered with the redlined errors and highlighted in red sentences that I have to fix. Thank you, chairperson.
Thank you so much, Shuaib, for this report, detailed, that you have just presented to us. I will then invite honorable members to interact with the report, add where additions are needed, emphasize on the points that need emphasis on. Honorable Siwisa, you'll be the first one. Honorable Graham Murray, the second one. Honorable Hicklin, the third one. In that order, honorable members.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, let me keep my video off. The crisis that we are having in Acacia Park of network. Chairperson, I think something that needs to be emphasized is the way the committee was undermined by both departments of SAPS and the Department of Public Works, because they knew on time that we are coming for an oversight, and yet it looked like nothing was being prepared. I don't know if it was done on purpose or they were trying to render the committee as useless, because it was a total sabotage. That money had to be spent for us to come over, and yet no preparations were done pertaining our oversight visit to the Telkom Towers. Another point that I think one of the points that I think need to be added is that in the briefing meeting that we had, I made a request that IDT must be given the same amount of work as any other, as DBSA and as KUGA, because of IDT is the only body that we can have oversight over. KUGA and DBSA is another question that needs to be looked into. But because we do have a body, or we do have an entity that can deal with projects within the public works, those people must be given the bulk of the work, because so far DBSA has failed dismally. and they are still continuing to fail. But for some reason, they are still given the first preference. That's the second point. The third point that I wanted to raise, which can be a recommendation that can be put in, is that DBSA must be put aside. Somebody else must come and do the coordination, because DBSA has been given the opportunity to do the work for so long, and yet still they are failing dismally. The fourth one is how safe is the building if we were given a report that cables have been stolen. So even a place where we are supposed to feel safe is the one that is being vandalized. So the question of security also needs to be looked into. Thank you, Chair.
Honorable Krabmare.
Thank you, Chair. My inputs are going to be just some additional corrections, Shuaib, if you don't mind. So I don't know if you just want to do them on your side, but on page 8, am I on page 8? Yeah, under challenges that contributed to further delays in migration, the paragraph that starts off before stating the reasons, that it should be that the project manager gave. And then 2 lines down, it also means loss of trust in the project. It should be management team. And then on page 10, yeah, you've made a note to correct it, but it's obviously it's Dr. Moemi. He is a doctor, not a mister. On page 11, that last line just above 5.1.2.2, the annex building, it said it should be terminated, the first word in that line. And then the second line under the annex building, water ingress problem prior to occupation, it should be of the building, not into. Then page 12, that top line, you'll see due to procurement, it should be procurement challenges. You corrected the spacing issue, but didn't add the S. And then you changed the site handover. It should be is scheduled for 18 October. Page 13. Yeah, page 13, I also wanted to raise the issue with the IDT. They've given, I don't know where that allocation comes in. My understanding was that was for the future work that was coming. And I agree that it was, I don't think it related to that work specifically. My understanding was that for the rest of the projects going forward. So they haven't been, from what I understand, they haven't actually been given any work. It was only DBSA at this stage that have been given any work on this project, and this is future allocations. So we might need to just rephrase that slightly. And then page 14, just the second paragraph, the second line of the second paragraph starts with officials. And then it says it was established that there were few officials who had moved. Again, that should be onto the floor and not into the floor. So it was just those issues. But otherwise, I'm very happy with the report. And I'd really like to commend our staff again on really doing an amazing job of encapsulating exactly what happened, what the issues are, and what needs to be done. I think this is an excellent report. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Krabmare. Honorable Hicklin.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, I think that we have the most amazing support staff of any portfolio committee. I don't think we have ever been on an oversight where we have come back and said that we have been let down by our support staff. And I really want it minuted, because we really and truly are blessed. I think one of the things that I would like noted in the recommendations is that when we land up doing an oversight, such as the oversight that we went to in this particular instance, maybe it should be the order of things need to be reversed. In other words, the inspection of the building needs to happen before the hype. We should have gone through the Telkom Towers before the Department of Public Works and SAPS gave us their presentations, because we were lulled into a false sense of security about how stunningly well this project was happening. We all expected to go to the Telkom Towers, expecting to see such fantastic things. I know that we were told a couple of really hard home truths in the presentations, but I don't believe any of us were expecting to see the total shambles that we saw when we went to the Telkom Towers on the Saturday morning. Because on the Friday, we were led to believe that things were a lot better than they were. And I think one of the recommendations should be that a site visit needs to happen before we actually get given these great presentations. Because I think, A, we would not be able to have, we wouldn't be able, the excuses that they weren't prepared, they didn't have the keys, people weren't aware that we were coming, that couldn't be, that again couldn't be a reason why we weren't able to get to the floors that we went to. Another suggestion for another recommendation is we cannot anywhere in a report such as this have that either the DPWI or any of the implementing agents just note things. There must be action plans, Shoaib, from the DPWI. They cannot just note things, because as you said, when you just note things, it's taken as read and therefore there are no action plans. But once again, Shoaib, Nola and the team, phenomenal report. Thank you very much for the incredible hard work. And I believe that we could be in serious, serious trouble if we don't look after the likes of clients like SAPS, because it's a lot of money for anyone to pay 31 million Rand per month and to be getting absolutely nothing for it. Thank you so much, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Hicklin. Honorable Joba. Honorable Joba. Okay, we will come back later to Honorable Joba. Her hand is up, but she's not responding. Honorable Siwisa, is this a new hand or a legacy hand? Honorable Siwisa, is it a new hand or a legacy hand?
Chairperson, I'm in.
Oh, okay. Honorable Jobo, you may come in.
Yes, Chairperson, good morning to members. Thanks, Chairperson. I'm partly covered by two honorable members, Honorable Madi and Honorable Suisa. And I'd like to welcome the report, good report from the team. It's a good report. Thank you so much, Chairperson. Thanks.
Honorable Mashele.
Thank you very much, Chair. Greetings to yourself and fellow members, including the support staff of our committee. Let me appreciate the good work done by our committee in preparing this report. It made life easier for even some of us who were not there. It is rather disturbing, Chair, that you get a report that indicates that the committee is being undermined. And it is precisely because even those that reports to us that we directly do oversight over them, they do not take us serious. And some of us have been complaining that the executive authority and the accounting officers of this department do not take us serious. And up to a point where we begin to bite, we'll always have these things. You can see and tell from the report that there's a lot of discrepancies in relation to this project. Therefore, the committee ought to apply its mind, or probably go back and demand that the minister be available, and maybe we can do a joint oversight, get subs, and also get the executive authorities of both the institutions to be available, such that we can take an informed decision. Right now, indeed, you can see from the snippets that there is a huge crisis in that particular Telkom Towers thing. But however, let me appreciate what the report, in the manner in which it has been crafted by the committee. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Mashele. Let me add my voice in appreciating a well-prepared report by our parliamentary team, starting from the committee secretary, our researcher, and our content advisor. The report is well crafted and profound, but I want to put an emphasis on this point that Honorable Mashele ends with. I think we did discuss this, though we're no longer in the present, that we need to go back there as the portfolio committee. We can't not overstate the fact that we were really undermined on the second day. The report that we received on Friday didn't talk to what we saw on Saturday. The reality is that the committee was undermined by both the Department of Public Works and the officials from SAPS. That one is clear. And that one, we must not be afraid to say it. Our duty is to do oversight. So when we are not allowed to do oversight, and sometimes when we are lied to by the officials that gives us the reports, that thing we need to say it out and not be afraid to tell South Africans that the report that we got and our concern, we were correct in going there, because it has been our concern that when we were told that the Telkom Towers will be ready in March 2020, and that didn't happen. And now it's 2022. And from the date the project started, only one tower is ready to be used. And even there, it's not ready as we were made to believe it being ready. So it's really a challenge, and it's really a challenge even to the taxpayers when 31 million is netted out for rental each month. That could have done to a lot when we know how crime is in South Africa. That money that is being used by subs for rentals, it could have been used in other things to avert crime. And we know something that we discussed as the committee when we were coming back, the state of our police stations, if the headquarters of SAPS could be in that way, the state of our police stations, and we know the owner, and it is the responsibility of the Department of Public Works to ensure that the police stations, the courts are in a state that is conducive to what is being done there. But we know what is the state of that. And the issue of DPSA, we raise it sharply. From onset, it has been DPSA the agent that has been used to implement that project. And to us, DBSA has failed. It cannot, that after all these years, but it's just escalating costs, but nothing is done. So we are happy for the report, Shuaib, and I think as honorable members have said that with all the additions that we have made, we agree with the report in its entity, and we honorable members have since adopted the report, and there have been people that have made someone has seconded that motion to adopt the report. We accept this report as it is our true reflection, and I think that one must be written down that we plan to go back there. I think it is our project. We have to ensure before the end of this term that there is work that is being done in Telkom Towers. We cannot be given reports here that say this is happening, and when we go there, there's nothing that is actually happening. It's bad. It's really bad for South Africans. It's bad for taxpayers of this country. Thank you. I don't know whether you have some additions or some advices that you can make so that we go to the next item, which is looking at the minutes of the previous meetings.
No, Chairperson,
We're supposed to adopt the report, Chair.
Oh, okay.
Yes, I think it should be done formally.
Okay. Let me then get a mover for the adoption of the agenda.
I propose the adoption of the report, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Mchaba. Then may I get a seconder on the motion that we must adopt the report? Honorable Van Schalkwyk.
I will adopt.
Thank you. Okay, thank you, Honorable Graham Murray, for the seconder. Honorable Van Schalkwyk also adding her voice in us adopting the report. Thank you, honorable members, so much. Can we then move to the next item, that of looking to our previous minutes of the previous meeting? Excuse me. Is it Mehdi or our secretary? Yes. Can you?
Nadia. It's
Yeah.
Nadia. Okay, I've
Yes.
got minutes of the 26th of October. Can everybody see my screen?
There are no minutes on the screen. No minutes on the screen.
It's visible now.
Yeah, it is. It is now. It is visible. Honorable members, the minutes of the 26th October, when we were getting a report, progress report on the review of the National Infrastructure Management Strategy, and a report on the recent training of Infrastructure South Africa in the 5-case model and project development roadmap, setting out how the model integrates with the framework for infrastructure and how to use the UK's 5 model impacts on the review of the public-private partnership regulation. Then are these minutes a true reflection, although I have seen some issues that I think they need grammatical errors. Honorable Graham Murray.
Yeah, Chair, if I could just raise some corrections, please. On page 2, the last paragraph. You'll see members further indicated that oversight must be correctly spelled, that caused vagueness must be correctly spelled, and then you'll see it says DWPI in the second last line, it should be DPWI. And then on the second page, on the next page, that first paragraph, it says there, the third line, at the core of the concern raised that the terminology was vague and alienating was that the department. We must take out that the terminology was vague and alienating. We use it, it's used again somewhere else where it makes more sense. No, so leave that, you must leave was. So you take out that the terminology was vague and alienating. No, that stays. No, you've taken out the wrong words. So you take out, go across from where it says the concern raised, you take out that the terminology was vague and alienating. That, no, not there. After raised, at the start of the sentence, it says at the corner concern raised, after raised, take the that, yeah, the terminology was vague and alienating. That must all come out. Yeah, from there, that's it. And the. Before was, take out the. Yeah.
Both was and.
At the core of the concern raised was, yeah. Then
Was back in. That's it.
Okay, if you go further down, you'll see the committee noted on that thing, the second line where it says competition for the scarce skills is intense. It must be, it is understood that this impacted on project management. And then if you look below, yeah, there, it is understood. Before understood, we must insert is. And then underneath, you'll see improve needs to be correctly spelled. Then if you go down to the 2 paragraphs down, it starts off the committee emphasized that. We must just fix the. And then if you,
Sorry, it's not improved, it's just improve.
Improve.
Yeah, improve, thank you. Then just a comma after, you'll go down to where it says the DPWI, PMT and ESA, just a comma after DPWI. And then, sorry, I'm just scrolling down. I just want to see if there's anything else I need to.
Sorry, Chairperson, through you. Can I just, Honorable Grammar, can we just go back to that, the committee emphasized?
Yeah.
And removed it after that.
Yes, that the complex manner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Apologies.
Okay. No, that's perfect. That's all my changes. Thank you very much. Then with those, I would propose adoption.
Thank you, Honorable Grammar. Any other issues that honorable members would like to raise? So we are fine with the corrections that have been made. I also had, a lot of them, and they are being corrected now. Can we then have a mover that these are the true reflection of what we discussed on the 26th of October with the corrections, of course?
I move that.
Thank you. Can we then have a seconder, Honorable Mjabo?
I move, Chair. I second, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Mjabo. Then can we get the minutes of the second set of minutes?
Sorry, could you just give me a second?
The one of the 19th. I think these are the minutes that we said they must be returned for some corrections.
Just give me 1 second, Chair. I will find the minutes in a second.
Okay. But honorable members, we do have these minutes with us, the one of the 19th of October.
Sorry, Chair, I seem to be having technical issues on my side, but just give me 1 second. Sorry, my apologies.
Okay.
Is my screen visible, Chair?
Yes, they are. They are. If I can just give a background, honorable members, is that this set when we are adopting the minutes previously, we then agreed that this set needs to be worked on. That's why we couldn't adopt it the last time. Is it them or okay? Oh, can we then deal with them? Honorable Primary.
Chair, I only have one correction on the second page. Bullet point, you'll just see there where it says PMTE, there just needs to be a space between the comma and the A. With that correction, I'm happy to propose the adoption of the minutes if there are no other corrections from others.
Thank you, Honorable Primary. Can we then get a second, honorable members?
I'm happy to second, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Hicklin. We then also adopt these minutes as a true reflection of the meeting that we held on the 19th of October, 2022. On that note, honorable members, let me again appreciate the work that we have done in this committee, especially when we're dealing with this report. I think we were all not happy with what happened when we were on the oversight visit, the way that we were treated on the second day. I understand and share the concerns that have been raised by Honorable Hicklin that we need to first go to the site and then get a report so that the report, if it has gaps, as we found out that we were given a report which was glossy and we all appreciated it. And then when we went to the site, it was not all that we were given and the attitude and all that happened to us. So we're noting that and hoping that in the next oversight visit that we will do as such and see how we do that. Thank you again, honorable members, for your constructive contribution in the meeting. I don't know whether the summit, the GPV and F summit that is currently happening in Galaga Estate is being shown on our national television. Let's check and follow it up. Today it's the report from commissions. This is one item that is very close to my heart, knowing what is actually happening to women and children and how that affects the entire community, how affect that the entire society that we're living in, the issue of gender-based violence. It's across all political parties, it's across all race. It needs for us to all stand up and fight this scourge, honorable members, and support all those NGOs that are fighting the GBF in our communities. We need to stand up. We need to ensure that it is brought to an end, and it cannot only be done by women. It has to be done by men and women, because the perpetrators are not women. The perpetrators are men. We need to stand up. Men should say not in our name, and they must understand that it can be your sister, it can be your child, it can be your mother, it can be your grandmother, it can be you next time. So we need to stand up and support all the initiatives that are done to fight gender-based violence and femicide in our country. Thank you, honorable members. The meeting is adjourned.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Chair.
Thanks.
Have a good day. all.
Recording stopped.
Thank you. You too.